Going to record. Okay, Sophia, take it away.
Everyone, thank you so much for coming to our meeting today. We're really happy that you took the time out of your evening or whatever time zone you're in to come join us. I wanted to go ahead and introduce our first speaker today. That is going to be Jana from the Solana Center. Jana is a docent from the Solana Center. So Jana, whenever you're ready, you can start sharing your screen and let us know if you need any help with that.
Okay. Let's see. I hit share screen and present. This is my second time doing a Zoom presentation, so forgive me if I stumble a little bit. But the first time was for a third grade class, and they said, "Well, just do the same presentation." And I thought, no, I think the audience is a little more sophisticated here. But one of the things that I'm very excited about is the new organic curbside recycling. And so I will be hitting on that as well. And so just to get started, I just called it Greening Our Lifestyle. And Solana Center, just a little bit about the Solana Center. They're a nonprofit 501c3 organization. Some of the things they emphasize are zero waste, composting, water conservation, and really community education. So just a little more. Can you see the whole screen? Because I see everybody's picture on the side. It covers
it's perfect, Jana. Everything is perfect.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah,
all right. And so empowering both students and adults, we do a lot of school education as well, environmental education, teaching about composting, gardening, watershed protection and pollution prevention, sustainable living, waste reduction. They do collect a lot of e-waste at the center, and the sustainable management of resources. One of the most recent articles is on compost management. And trying to get down to the grassroots level and encourage change in the community and the way people think about the environment and our impact on the planet. So I've been a docent for I've been a volunteer for about 5 years, and this is not changing to the next screen. Where is it? Oh, okay. I got to click the mouse. Okay. And I've been a docent for just before a few months before we started to shut down with everything. But before that, I was a teacher, and I used to raise worms and do vermicomposting with my class, take them to the Eat, Plant, Grow, Eat exhibit at the fair. And then I decided once I retired that this is on my doorstep. It's a good place to volunteer. Solana Center started in Solana Beach. They're now in Encinitas. It's located right behind the Sheriff's Department. And so, to learn more, I'll give you the contact at solanacenter.org. And so first off, we're going to talk about the 4 R's, the problem with food waste, the organics recycling law, and how to sort your scraps for organic recycling. So landfills are filling up. The Miramar landfill is predicted to be full by 2025. So how do we create less waste? Well, let's use the materials we already have. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, but we've got, the 3 R's: reuse, reduce, recycle. So looking for ways to reduce your impact on the earth and, reuse things. You can make art projects, reuse jars, reuse bottles, or even better, reduce and don't buy them in the first place if you can manage that. So reducing by, taking our own bags, not using plastic bags, using reusable containers, reusable water bottles, trying to use different types of storage like the bees wrap or the reusable containers instead of saran wrap. And the thing about the paper bag versus lunch bag, I don't know if we're going to be able to recycle the paper bags, then that might be okay. So especially if you've already got them and don't have to buy them. The recycling, I think we're all familiar with: plastics, aluminum cans, glass bottles, paper. Clean paper gets recycled. So be careful with your recycling, not to do wish cycling. Okay, so floppy papers like tissue paper, they don't get recycled. Different plastics, they don't get recycled. So we want to be sure that if we're recycling paper, that it's clean paper as well, because otherwise the dirty paper does not get recycled with papers. Okay, but the one more R, I think you may have guessed it, is rot. So from decaying matter to healthy soil. If we can take our food waste and organic waste and put it back into the soil, we are creating that cycle that feeds the earth. Okay, nature does the work with the help of the FBI, the fungi, the bacteria, and the invertebrates. So I'm going to give you a little crash course on composting at home. So one of the methods you can use is composting with worms, called vermicomposting. So we use red wigglers, and they eat half their weight daily. Okay, they're usually bedded in something like shredded damp newspaper. And the nice thing about vermicomposting is you could do it in your apartment. You could put a little bucket under your sink. You could have it right there and throw your banana peels in it as they come up, and your apple cores. It's good for fruits and vegetables. You never want to put in meat, dairy, and oils. Citrus rinds are antibacterial. So since the bacteria is needed to help break down the food to a point where the worms can eat it, we don't want antibacterial things in there. Also, spicy foods, worms breathe through their skin. They don't like spicy foods, things like onions and garlic, getting into their breathing holes. But vermicomposting is an aerobic process. That means it needs air, it needs oxygen. There are drain holes at the bottom of the bucket. There are very tiny air holes at the top so you don't get fruit flies. And then there's usually a catch bucket below it. Okay, traditional compost bins. Okay, this is one from my backyard, and there's a variety of different types of bins that you can use. And that is also aerobic. It needs air. So breaks down best if you churn it every couple of weeks. I don't do that, but I have a little spiral hook that I can go in and loosen it up. And also no animal products, because you don't want them coming in and sniffing around your compost. And you want to keep the ratio about a 3-to-5 ratio of browns versus greens, browns being dried up things like leaves, also paper and cardboard. And greens are, even though coffee grounds are brown, they are a green because they haven't broken down yet. Okay, so the browns have more carbon and the greens have more nitrogen. And then if you're doing yard waste, it helps to chop it up in about 2-inch pieces, makes it easier to turn around. And again, you want to keep it damp like a wrung out sponge. And a third method that a lot of people don't know about is called bokashi. This is an anaerobic method, no air. So the nice thing about this is these buckets with the gamma lids that you can seal every stinky thing up in it and don't have to smell it in your garbage. So you can compost animal products as well as fruits and vegetables. And what you do is you get bokashi sprinkles at Solana Center. They have the ones that are rice bran that's impregnated with some different yeasts and bacteria to help it ferment the compost. And then once your bucket is completely full, you press it down and close the lid, keep it sealed for 2 to 3 weeks. And kind of like pickles, it ferments. And after you finally open it, it's going to stink for the first day, but you can actually dig it down into the ground or put it in your compost bin, and it will not attract animals. They don't like the smell of it. And if you don't want to get messy, you can join the food cycle at Solana Center, and they will do the messy part for you. You take your bucket in, pick up a new bucket, fill it up with a little ready-made compost, and start all over again at home. So to learn more about composting, you can go to solanacenter.org. They have webinars and sometimes in-person classes. It's more webinar classes now. You can buy the worms, the buckets, the bokashi sprinkles from them. You can join the food cycle program. They will compost, do all the messy stuff. And if you like getting messy and playing with other people who like to compost, volunteer in the food cycle. It's very educational. And so what's new? The curbside organic waste collection. So even if you don't compost at home, you can keep food waste out of the trash. Okay, so there's a new law. It was signed into law in 2016 by Governor Jerry Brown. And they say all organic food waste must be recycled by January 1st, 2022. So that's just around the corner. Another part of the law says we need to rescue at least 20% of edible food by 2025. Get it out to the food banks and to people who need it. So the food hierarchy is first feed people, then you can feed animals, and then feed the soil. So Californians throw away more than 6 million tons of food waste every year. Food waste in the United States, about 40% of food is never eaten. And when we think about 80% of our water goes to growing food, that's a big impact. 42 million Americans are food insecure. About $218 billion is wasted every year in food waste. And a family of 4 wastes close to $2,000 per year in food that they throw away. So how much food would you say that your household usually throws away each week? You know, take time to inventory, maybe keep a log for a week and see what actually happens with your food and what you can do to, one, maybe buy less, buy it with more planning, store it so that it lasts better, and eventually put it into compost or organic waste collection so it's not contributing to global warming. The problem with food waste: in a landfill, organic waste breaks down anaerobically. So we talked about that without air, because everything's pushed down on top of each other and it's not turned, it's breaking down without oxygen. This produces methane, CH4. And methane is 80 times more powerful a contributor to global warming than carbon dioxide. So other sources of methane, of course, are things like natural gas, oil drilling, and of course, everyone's heard of cows. But the food waste is a big area of a big source of methane pollution. The good news, just a little good news, is that methane is called a short-lived climate pollutant. It breaks down faster than carbon dioxide in less than 10 years versus 200. So reducing methane will have a faster impact on global warming while we work on more options to reduce greenhouse gases. How will organic waste collection be implemented? Well, I live in North County in Encinitas, and EDCO is our waste management company, and they have built 4 anaerobic digesters in Escondido. And they began on June 1st with collections in some households. So our organic waste is being picked up now. Their collectors are siphoning off the methane and using it to fuel the trucks. Okay. Our food waste just gets added to the green buckets we have for yard waste. And then the compost that it results in after it's decomposed is available for agriculture. If you live in San Diego, things might be a little different. So the Miramar Landfill Greenery has already done trials with aerobic composting in windrows, and this will be expanded. There are about 80 plus organizations that already transport their organic waste for composting, including San Diego Zoo and Convention Center. The food waste for homeowners is going to be added to the green buckets, just like in North County. And the compost that they've already produced is available for free to residents of San Diego. So I gave my presentation to the 3rd graders, and one little boy raised his hand and he says, well, what if we don't have a green bucket? And that's when I realized that people who live in apartments, multifamily residences, condominiums, places without yards, they probably don't have green buckets. And the law says businesses and family units that generate more than 2 cubic yards of waste are expected to arrange for organic recycle. So your landlord's supposed to arrange to have some type of green bin for you. And I'm not sure how that's all going to play out and how that's all going to happen. Another interesting thing is in San Diego, there is the People's Ordinance of 1919, where they said people who live in single-family homes will not be charged for trash collection. So there's additional charge, just additional costs in collecting the organic waste. And I think that's why San Diego's been reluctant to roll it out to homeowners, but they can't collect more from the single-family homeowners. They probably will have to absorb costs somehow for multifamily homes and condominiums, because somebody's going to have to pay to arrange for that organic waste collection. And under EDCO, homeowners are paying extra on their monthly bills, which doesn't make some of my neighbors very happy. I think it's worth it. Not everybody does, but hopefully we can get more people on board and they will see the good in being able to recycle all this food waste. So how does it work? Well, you scrape your food waste into a container. EDCO gave everybody a under sink container if they want to use it, but you can use any type of container, or you can take a bag and throw it in the freezer if you don't want to see your fruit flies flying around your counter and want to keep the counters clean. Throw it in the freezer till trash day and then throw it into your green bucket. Or if you know someone with a green bucket and you don't have one, then that would be one way you could do it. You can also collect all your dirty napkins, your paper takeout boxes, your pizza boxes, anything that's not lined with plastic. Those can all go into the green bucket. And then the thing is, this is a new practice. So educate your home, your neighbors, your family, people around you. Let's do it right, and let's make this succeed. Okay, accepted organics, just about any type of food scraps. That means meat and bones, eggs and shells and dairy, as well as your fruit, vegetables, breads, and grains. Okay, food soiled paper, like the paper bags and the pizza boxes and the coffee filters, tea bags, paper towels, as long as you haven't used, harsh chemicals with the paper towels, and napkins, and also natural fibers, popsicle sticks, sawdust, toothpicks, chopsticks. Those can all be accepted organics. If it grows, it goes. Just don't throw your stainless steel fork in. Unacceptable items: plastic, styrofoam, liquids, metal, rubber, glass, wax paper, because it's coated, and pet waste because of the germs, the diseases that can be spread that way. Oil, tree stumps are too big. And the big thing is no plastic or compostable bags. So I know for the EDCO collection, even the compostable bags will damage their new machines. I don't know what's going to happen with Miramar. I think they're testing it now to see if compostable bags will break down fast enough. Tips and tricks to make it easier: wrap your scraps, put them in a paper bag, or wrap them in newspaper. Use a kitchen caddy, use an airtight container until garbage day, or freeze it till garbage day. So teach your family and friends about the new rules for organic recycling. I hope a year from now, this will become automatic and everybody will say, why didn't we do this a long time ago? It makes so much sense. So no plastic or compostable bags, no dog or cat waste, but yes to all other kinds of organic waste. Visit Solana Center or solanacenter.org. You can learn more about composting, about water conservation, about recycling. Okay, this is from just some clips from their website currently. This is next week's classes that are coming up as webinars. So there's raising backyard chickens, vermicomposting, and constructing your own traditional bin. There's articles on what they're doing with manure management. And I just put together a few resources there. There's also, I just saw today, there's in Apple News, a popular science article on methane, and you might want to have a look at that if you have access to it.
Thanks, Jenna. And we'll share all this information with the group as well to make sure that they have access and can check out the Solana Center and learn more about it. We'll have a follow-up email, so we'll be able to include that there.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sophia, I'm going to hand it over to you, and we can move on to the next part. And Jen, if you could just end your screen share at your convenience, that would be amazing.
Stop share.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was extremely insightful, really good information, and we really appreciate that. And we'll be sure to share all that. And there are some questions here, just out of respect for other presenters, because we're a little bit behind. I will let us, Jan, if you can stay till the end, that's great. If not, maybe we'll email you and grab those. But if you want to stay late, we can field some of those questions afterwards. I have some of my own as well. So I will.
Okay. All right.
All right. I'll pass it off to Sophia.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jana. That was super informative. We really appreciate you coming. We're going to go ahead and now pass it off to one of our food and soil team members. I believe Tina is going to be talking to us about an upcoming bill. If you want to take that over, Tina.
Yeah. Okay. Can you all see my screen? Yeah, okay. So hi everyone, my name is Tina, pronoun she, hers, and I am a part of San Diego 350's Food Waste Committee. So I know Jana already covered most of what I am going to cover in my presentation, so I will be zooming a bit through my presentation. So again, the Senate bill is SB 1383, and it is focused on redirecting organic food waste from our landfills, and we go into full effect on January 2022. Okay, and then Jana went over what is the bill, so I'm not gonna go over that again. And then also, why do we use the bill? Jana also went over that too, so I will not go over it again. Okay, so going into current initiatives in San Diego. So like I mentioned, SB 1383 will go into effect January 2022. However, because of COVID-19, they created another bill, which is SB 619. And that will push penalty for not complying to the bill until January 1st, 2023. So if a city does not meet the goals of SB 1383, by then they can get fined up to $10,000. So here are some of San Diego's current initiatives to comply with the bill. Starting, there will be an expansion in collecting organic waste through households and businesses by the city and private haulers. I know EDCO is currently doing that right now with their anaerobic digesters. The city has not done that yet. They're still in the planning phase. And then there will also be a requirement where large food service businesses need to donate their surplus foods to food recovery organizations like the San Diego Food Bank. In addition, as of January 2021, the city of San Diego has spent $15 million to buy green bins for residents and businesses to put their organic waste in, like food scraps, food soil, paper, in order to comply. However, residents are expected to receive those green bins more so next year, anywhere between summer to fall of 2022. Okay. And then I created some of the things that we can do because this is a team effort. So like Jana also mentioned, our food waste committee likes to use this food recovery hierarchy right here to help guide us in reducing food waste. So at home, we can limit overbuying on food. So right here, it says limit food surplus. So creating a list when you go buy or meal planning, psychologically, don't shop when you're hungry. That'll also limit surplus buying. Over here, feeding hungry people. So you can always give your extra meals and give it to your family and friends, or then food recovery organizations. Another thing that we can do is divert food from landfills. I know some of the things that we can do is zero waste cooking, being creative, cooking from leftovers. We can also have stock buckets where we use our food scraps to make broth. We can also compost at home, composting. Another thing that I like to do in my own home is using a tumbler. So I know stirring a compost might be very labor intensive for me. So I just toss my greens and my browns in the tumbler, just spin it. That's what I can do. And then also using those green bins when you receive it. So ultimately, in order to comply to this bill, I know it's a whole team effort, and I hope a little bit of what I said could help you learn more about what is happening and ways you can contribute. If you have any questions, I can answer it in the chat, but thank you.
Awesome, Tina. That was amazing. Thank you so much. And if you don't mind, we'd love to also share that deck afterwards with people just so they can get a little bit more context. Okay, well, because of timing, we were going to do a breakout. I think we're just going to do one breakout towards the end now and skip the second one. And so we're going to go straight into our sustainability presentation. Liz is going to start. Liz, I can share my screen with the presentation, and then you can just let me know verbally when you want me to go to the next slide. And for those presenting, please just do a brief introduction of yourself and kind of your role or the reason that you're presenting on this. And so I'm going to share my screen and then hand it over to Liz. Thank you again, Tina, very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Max. While you're pulling that up, I'll intro myself. So I'm Liz, she and her pronouns. I have been volunteering with the SD 350 group since summer of 2020. I used to be an event planner before COVID and was really excited about helping the group out with some online events. So very excited to share some sustainability information with you all tonight. So you can go to the next slide. Yes. So first and foremost, what are sustainable products? These are products that hit a couple of marks. So they help to protect our public health. They do no harm to our environment. And in addition to that, they actually provide environmental and economic benefits. And this comprises their entire life cycle. So from the moment they are extracted as raw materials, through being used, and then however and whenever they are disposed of, they provide no harm and they actually provide benefits. So there's a little infographic there that kind of shows the life cycle of what an actually sustainable product should adhere to. You can go to the next slide. So another way to think of it is if a product does not deplete their natural and renewable sources. So sustainable products are made from renewable resources that can't ever be fully depleted. They also, again, do no harm to the environment. So the harvest of raw materials, the production, how they're distributed, and how they're consumed all factors into whether or not a product is eco-friendly and sustainable. So you want to be using as little energy as possible over this entire life cycle. And you also factor into the equation how any type of waste is created, how it's disposed. So unfortunately, there's usually almost no action that is completely free from some sort of environmental impact. So a lot of the environmentally conscious companies that are out there keep this in mind, and what they strive for is to minimize as much as possible any type of negative impacts. And then the other factor is it wasn't made in a socially irresponsible way. So we're seeing a lot of this now where, companies are very clear and transparent about the fact that their products are not harvested or produced using forced or child labor, and there aren't any health or safety concerns for their employees, for those that are using the products, as well as the communities and residents in the areas where the products or the raw materials are harvested or where the products are actually made. So all these things factor into whether or not a product is actually considered sustainable. So it's a lot to keep in mind. Why do we care? Why does it even matter? So sorry, next slide. Getting all excited over here. 3 big factors. First off, it actually lowers costs. So I'm sure the majority of us have seen, whether you go to the store or you're purchasing something online, eco-friendly, sustainable, natural products are usually more expensive. Sometimes they're a lot more expensive. So why or how is it lowering costs? In the long term, they are more cost efficient. So eco-friendly products are usually what they're made from is usually much more durable, and so they'll last longer because they're made from these recycled materials, and it's just much sturdier. So initially it might have a larger sticker price, but ultimately it's an investment into that product and into our personal health and safety, as well as the benefits of our environment. Another great reason to keep in mind is it's just a healthier way to live. So eco-friendly products, natural products, these all help to ensure the safety for those who are consuming or using them. There's safety from, dangerous chemicals that are typically found within plastics. So chemicals like BPAs and lead, those things like that, they can cause a lot of really harmful side effects. So in adults, for example, you can risk heart disease, autoimmune diseases, even reproductive issues down the road for females and for males. And then for children, premature puberty, diabetes, stunted growth, these are all things that have actually been proven as harmful negative side effects of non-sustainable or non-eco-friendly products. So really important to keep that in mind. And ultimately, purchasing and using sustainable products is just better for our environment. By doing this, we are contributing to the safety and the preservation of our green earth, of the resources that are, of the limited resources that are here. And so it just, it's just a great thing to do for ourselves and for those around us and for the future. Next slide. Yeah. Some things to keep in mind when you are searching for sustainable products. There's a whole bunch of logos, but 4 labels in particular are pretty popular. The first being the Energy Star logo. You'll see this a lot in appliances and electronics in homes, such as dishwashers, washing machines, refrigerators. Definitely keep an eye out for those, as they do help to minimize, energy spend, and they are considered sustainable products. USDA organic seal, you'll see this in the grocery store, obviously, on food products, and there are even some cosmetics or personal like bath and shampoo type of products that are considered organic and sustainable. Another one is the Green Seal Certified. You'll see this with mostly like cleaning supplies. So like surface cleaners or glass cleaners, things like that. Those are really important to keep in mind in terms of, what chemicals are being used in and around our homes. And another great one is the Forest Stewardship Council. So this is mostly for like construction. You might not see this one or need to keep an eye out for this one as much, but paper and wood products are the big ones here. So that's great. We can go to the next slide. So for the for more sustainable products that you can have in your home and ways that you can help to make some changes, some easy changes. So switching out plastics to glass. I remember when I was young, my parents telling me that their parents had like milk delivered in glass jars, for example. And I was always kind of stymied at why we transitioned to plastic. It's obviously easier, but unfortunately has some detrimental effects. Going back to the old-timey ways of having glass instead of plastic is really important. The glass will last or can last much longer, and they are better for the environment. So a great way of doing this, for example, I've done this in my own home. I have a membership with the Grove Collaborative, and I've swapped out all of my cleaning supplies, bathroom cleaners and kitchen cleaners. I now have in these glass spray bottles that I purchased from the Grove Collaborative. And they actually sell these little vials that are concentrated cleaners. So the bottles themselves are entirely made of recycled materials and are recyclable themselves. And every few months when I run out, I just purchase some more, and I don't have to worry about throwing away a plastic bottle and contributing more to the landfill. Another one that was touched on earlier, stop buying new. we have so much stuff in our lives. I'm sure all of us, at some point in time have gone looking for something and found more than what we were expecting. A simple dig through of what we have in our own homes can probably yield, items that we could repurpose and upcycle for other reasons and other uses. So instead of going out and buying an entirely new thing, take a look around your home and see what you have. You can also consider doing some sort of trade or swap with family and friends. And obviously there's thrift stores and other sources like that it help to encourage this idea of buying new to you and not new to the planet type of products. And of course, eliminating products that are full of chemicals. So there's a couple of great sources out there. One is EWG. This is a great source for consumer guides. So if you're looking for sunscreens, for example, that are reef friendly and considered sustainable and healthy for the planet and for your body, they will have a whole entire guide for these types of products. Definitely check them out. They have everything from cosmetics to cleaning supplies. I think when I was on there last, I even saw something about solar panels. So wide variety of information. And then something else is doing some sort of chemical detox challenge. So there's a link that'll be shared towards the end of the presentation that helps you go through the different areas of your home and identify everyday items that we have, from kitchenware to furniture or decorations, that are loaded with really bad chemicals. And these products are definitely not sustainable and not helping our personal health at all. So that's a fun and sometimes kind of scary way to take a look at what's in your home and find out what you can change to help better your environment and your personal health. Okay, that's it for me.
All right, I'm up next, and I'm Michaela. I am a rising junior at the University of Washington. And this summer, I've been doing an internship with SD 350, and it's been great. I've really enjoyed working with everyone here. And so I'm going to be discussing a little bit further on how to live sustainably in your home. And I'm going to just outline a couple tips that you should keep in mind when you're trying to live a sustainable life. The first, of course, as everyone's mentioned, is to reuse products you already have in your home. It's always better to use products you already have than to buy something new. So a few examples I have listed here is to keep reusable bags for grocery shopping, to wash and reuse glass jars for storage and to drink out of, and to try to repurpose old clothing or furniture. And then we also have the shopping used tip, which is great because you can shop from secondhand stores, thrift stores, or get products from family and friends who might be giving away items. But if you do need to buy something new, then you should try to shop sustainably. Our modern consumer culture is ruining our environment due to increased pollutant emissions, increased land use and deforestation, and increased carbon emissions from transporting goods across the country. So there's a lot in our modern consumer culture that's really affecting our environment. So it's important to take the time to research companies and their sustainable efforts and their goals to be environmentally conscious. So if we can go to the next slide, I have a list of sustainable products if you do need to buy new things for your home. So linked here on the slide, I have the document. I'm also going to put it in the chat right now. And if you just go to this document, this is what it looks like on the slide, and you click on each of these items, it'll bring you a link to the products. And so if you have the available resources and budget to buy sustainable products, it's always better. And I've listed here some sustainable household products such as metal straws, reusable cloth napkins, bamboo toothbrush, compostable trash bags, etc. And then at the bottom, I have listed some sustainable companies. But of course, you should always try to do your own research on companies' environmental attitudes and what they're trying to do to save the environment. All right, next slide. And then lastly, I'm just going to be touching a little bit further on eating sustainably, because this is something that I think is really important and I have been able to do in my life. And I think it's really important because 70% of our freshwater usage goes to agriculture, and the food that we grow all across our country is transported to grocery stores all across the country. And this is greatly contributing to our carbon footprint. So I think eating sustainably is a fairly easy thing to do. But of course, you should try to do what you can with your budget and your available resources. So I have listed here a few steps for eating sustainably. The first is to shop locally at your local farmers market, produce shops, and community gardens. And the second is to try to shop organically if you can. This can add up. So one thing you can try to do is just shop for the Dirty Dozen, which is a list of 12 produce items that you should always try to shop organically at the grocery store. So if you can't buy everything organically, you can at least try to buy these 12 produce items organically, which are listed on the slide here. And then I have support local farms, which you can do through volunteering or buying community shared agriculture boxes, which are small boxes of produce items that come from these farms that either can be delivered to your home or that you can pick up from the farm. And then you should try to eat seasonally. When purchasing produce at the grocery store, you should try to purchase foods that are in season at the time, even though probably all the produce you can get is available at the grocery store, but you should try to purchase what is in season currently. And then lastly, you should just try to stay educated, keeping up to date on sustainable eating trends, educating your family and friends on the importance of eating sustainably, and continuing to educate yourself and stay dedicated to make a difference. Thank you.
That's amazing, Michaela. So much information, and Liz as well. Thank you guys both for touching on that. Two things. One, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at the Ecology Center. They have a two regenerative farms, one in Encinitas and one in San Juan Capistrano. They offer CSA boxes there. You can go volunteer, go pick strawberries. They have a bunch of cool stuff. So the Ecology Center, check them out. Really good people over there. And then I just encourage everyone here to check out that list that Michaela put together. There are so many brands out. It is definitely trending right now. Anything that you want, that you purchase, you can probably find a sustainable version of it. We have sustainable trash bags, our laundry detergent sustainable, our toothpaste, anything you want. Might be a little bit more expensive, but it's definitely worth it in the long run. So I'm gonna touch on electric vehicles. I am definitely not an expert, but I am an owner of one, and I've done a bunch of research here, and I want to share some of the benefits that I have found out. So let me get back over there. All right. Okay, so the current landscape. So right now, 41% of greenhouse gas emissions in California come from transportation. That number is actually closer to 50% in San Diego. Of all transportation emitted greenhouse gases in the US, 60% of those come from light vehicle use. So if you want to talk about all greenhouse gas emission, light vehicle use is about 17% of that. So it's a big chunk. Now, the benefits of electric vehicles, well, it's pretty evident. There's no exhaust pollution. So we're driving them, we're not emitting CO2 from the exhaust. Just to give you guys a little bit of an understanding of how significant it is, a typical passenger vehicle with a combustion engine creates about 4.6 metric tons of carbon dioxide per year. In one study that predicts hopefully by 2050, every other car on the street could be electric. In that scenario, we would reduce the global carbon dioxide emission by up to 1.5 gigatons. I don't even know how much that is, it sounds like a lot, per year, which is equivalent to the total current carbon dioxide output emissions of Russia on an annual basis. So really a lot by just putting half of our cars on the road as electric vehicles. There are caveats though, and I'm sure some of us have heard about this. Well, what about the production emissions? The batteries are really, it causes a lot of greenhouse gas emissions by doing that. Well, the emissions during the production of an electric car tend to be higher than a conventional car because you're manufacturing lithium-ion batteries, which are an essential part of the electric car. To provide an example, before it rolls off the assembly line, a Tesla, in comparison to a RAV4, using a Wall Street Journal study, I'll paraphrase here, has generated 65% more emissions. So yes, creating the battery, creating the car is actually going to create more emissions than creating a combustible engine car. However, and all in all, a third of the lifetime carbon dioxide emissions that come from an electric car come from the energy used to make a car itself. However, as technology advances, this is changing for the better. And we'll see here that for every mile driven, the second caveat here is operating emissions. So obviously we have to power, and there's always a trade-off. And so powering an electric vehicle is also going to cause some offset and some carbon dioxide release if you're not using a sustainable source like solar power. However, for every mile driven, generating the electricity for the Tesla, again, compared to the RAV4, it's only going to emit 1/3 of the amount of the emissions associated with making and burning the gasoline consumed. So it's significantly less. All right. Just to give you guys an idea, here's a little graph that shows us how much emissions are created by light use vehicles. And this is an example here that I've been referring to a couple times. So this shows at the end of the life cycle of cars. So we're saying that about 200,000 miles is the typical lifespan of a car. And now we're going to look at emissions versus Tesla Model 3 versus the RAV4. At the end of the day, the RAV4 has generated 78 tons of greenhouse gases, while the Model 3 has only generated 36 tons. So at the end of the day, we're about cutting it in half throughout the use of a car by using an electric vehicle. So hopefully that puts that debate to rest there. The next thing we're going to look at are some of the other benefits. So we just purchased an electric vehicle, my wife and I, and we're experiencing all this firsthand. First of all, there is a federal tax credit of up to $7,500. We got the full amount that you get from the country for buying these, and it's a limited availability. So they provide them to the manufacturers to distribute when they're selling their cars. And so for Teslas, that's probably not available anymore, but for other cars that are coming out, you can still get this, and we will get a $7,500 tax refund in our next return. California offers an immediate $1,500 rebate upon purchase, so factor that in. There is a clean vehicle rebate project. I'm in the process of figuring this out, but apparently you can get up to $7,000 back. Gas savings, we'll go into this a little bit more, but it averages around, depending on how much you drive, about $1,000 a year that you're going to save in gas. Maintenance savings. So we're not dealing with an engine that needs a lot of oil or anything like that, right? It's really just, changing brake pads and things like that. So about $5,000 if I'm rounding up. Depreciation savings, these vehicles are going to last a long time. Other perks, like you get a decal for carpool use if you want, if you have an electric car. What are the caveats? Well, higher averaging purchasing price. So I guess the estimate is that an electric vehicle from the similar size and segment can cost about 10 to 40% more than a similar gasoline model. However, with the rebates, our car was actually saved us money on anything else with a gas engine that was comparable. So we actually got our car with these rebates for less than we had another one. Just to give you guys an idea here, when we talk about maintenance costs, if you look at the gas powered car in comparison to the EVs and also hybrids, which are even less, over the course of the existence of the car, it's going to save you about half the cost of maintenance. So this is just one anecdote to help you understand where some of the savings come from. This is the ID4. This is the Volkswagen that we got. We absolutely love it. If you have any questions, happy to answer them, but wanted to show that off there. All right, so what does the future look like? Well, there's two things here that we need to take into account. Reusing and recycling batteries is a growing market. Automotive lithium-ion batteries provide an opportunity for reuse in stationary storage applications after their vehicle use phase. This in turn allows the initial battery production footprint to be spread across more use. When batteries are removed from electric vehicles after their first life, they are likely to retain significant capacity, typically 75 to 80% of their original capacity. They could therefore play an important role in supporting the electric grid, especially as intermittent renewables become more widespread. So yes, there's a growing market for this. Battery manufacturing is improving as well. Producing batteries in regions with relatively low carbon electricity or in factories powered by renewable energy, as will be the case for all the batteries used in the best-selling Model 3 for the Tesla, can substantially reduce battery emissions. So if we're manufacturing these batteries in clean facilities and in facilities that use low carbon, then we're also going to reduce the amount of carbon emissions that come from manufacturing those batteries. And so these are two things trending in the right direction. Grid modernization. Decarbonization of electric grids around the world by an average of about 30% would result in approximately 17% lower battery manufacture. And so now there's even more reason to push grid modernization. This is something that's underway in a lot of countries. Government mandates. So some of you probably have heard, but in California, the goal is that by 2035, all new cars and passenger trucks will be zero emission vehicles. In Europe, they have very similar goals. They're trying to mandate electric vehicle and hydrogen fuel cell power between 2030 and 2035. And so there's a very good chance that, in the near future that this is going to be the way things are going. I also wanted to touch quickly on the Encinitas climate action plan. A couple things that I read in here. One is that it's requiring new single family homes to be EV ready and new multifamily developments to include EV charging stations. And it's going to require new and remodeled commercial developments to install EV charging stations. And so this is definitely something that's beneficial. There are some EV charging stations around. I would say that, not enough at the moment. And as more electric vehicles show up on the road, we're going to have to improve infrastructure to make sure that there's enough charging ports for them. Just a couple graphs here that show you kind of how this trend is growing. On the left, this is in the UK. You can see some major jumps between 2018 and 2019. On the right, you can see the global total, and you can see it's definitely moving up in the right direction really quickly. And so really promising to see these trends. And as I was mentioning before, as the methods for producing the batteries, as the technology for the cars, as this all improves over time, the carbon emissions are just continuing to get lower. So you can see here that we're in 2019, this is where we're at, and by 2030, that's going to continue to decrease. So we're moving in the right direction, and a lot of good reasons to buy a car. So in summary, electric vehicles are only part of the solution. So they're still an offset, but it's a big part of the solution. The best thing that we can do is to go electric, but also improve fuel efficiency, make cars lighter, and decrease travel. So keep that in mind. It's just one of the solutions, but we want to take a mixed approach to really solving these problems and reducing the carbon emissions set off by transportation. And I'll pass it over to Sophia.
All right, hi everyone. My name is Sophia Silvestri. I am an SD 350 volunteer. I am an alumni of UC San Diego with my degree in climate change and human solutions. So this meeting and conversation about sustainability is one I believe all of us can benefit from. So thank you again for coming. I will be briefly discussing greenwashing, what that is, why we're seeing it coming up more with companies, and ways to be more informed about the companies you are purchasing from. So if we could go to the next slide. That would be awesome. So consumers of today are told that the climate crisis is on our shoulders. Companies are marketing their products as green, sustainable, environmentally friendly to push the consumer into thinking they're making eco-friendly purchases. This greenwashing tactic that we've been seeing is stemming from companies who are misleading some of our consumers into thinking the overall impact of their products is environmentally friendly, as well as possibly their overall company being environmentally friendly, kind of across the board. So overall, we're seeing companies who are wanting to utilize the marketability of the climate and environmental movements as they view them to kind of be trendy. As we've discussed, it's a great thing that the climate and environmental movements are popular and people want to be sustainable, and that's great. But we have seen some companies trying to market off of that to kind of grow their profits in a way. So if we can move to the next slide, I'm just going to talk a bit more about this. we see that companies are using greenwashing. They're taking advantage of the movement with misleading advertisement of their products. We have seen examples from this with, unsurprisingly, fossil fuel companies. They will market their low carbon initiatives, which are typically not as sustainable as they claim them to be. We have also seen it in fashion brands such as H&M. H&M in 2019 launched a green clothing line where it was found that the materials they were actually using were not really that sustainable when you looked at the resources it takes to make those raw materials. So definitely we're seeing it kind of across the board between cleaning products, fashion, makeup, things like that. Of course, there are so many wonderful brands for us to be looking at, but it is good to know that there are companies kind of taking advantage of our eco-friendly movement and trying to profit off of that. So we'll go ahead and move to the next slide. And I just want to talk about the importance of taking pride in our environment and the planet that we live on. You know, by taking the steps that we've talked about today to make everyday changes in your lives through sustainable products, as well as even things like transportation, figuring out where you're going to transport yourself, how you're going to do that. It's a wonderful impact for you to make, but it's also important for us to hold these companies accountable. Today, many individuals I talk to through my education, as well as outside of my education, sometimes feel helpless because they feel that all of this pressure is put on the singular individual. And it is wonderful for us to kind of approach sustainability in an approachable way. Do what you can, make changes that are easy for you to make and that you know you can stick with, but don't feel that it is all on you because this is a collective effort. So we just want to remind you that companies need to be held to a higher standard because they are contributing so heavily to the climate crisis. By reading more about the companies we purchase from, we can still be eco-conscious while supporting companies that have the same goals you and I have. And a lot of the companies that we've talked about today, as well as things that Michaela has shared in her document, are wonderful for you to check out. So we really encourage you to look for those companies that are making a genuine difference. And then if we go to the next slide, I do have some resources about reading more on greenwashing. There's a couple of resources on some companies that have been kind of called out for greenwashing in recent years. We've seen it become more of a common thing due to the fact that, like I said, the environmental movement is getting more popular, which is what we want, but we obviously don't want to be supporting companies that don't genuinely support the movement. So I wanted to keep it quick today because I know we have a couple more presenters to go. So thank you all so much. We will share these documents as well at the end. So thank you, and I will give that back to Max.
Okay, thank you, Sophia. Sorry, so many people to thank for all this great work. And sorry for those that had to rush through. Obviously, just so much information here to share, and we're trying to squeeze it all in. And so that being the case, I'm going to skip the next breakout too. I'm really sorry because these are usually really fun and a good way for people to connect. But you know, I want to honor the time and the sacrifice that our presenters made to be here tonight. And so I am going to go ahead and pass it off to Katrina from Earthwell, and she has a presentation that she's going to provide. And so I'm going to spotlight you, Katrina, and give it a shot.
Hi. I don't really have a slideshow to present. I just wanted to tell you about our shop called Earthwell Refill. It's in Kensington in central San Diego, 4114 Adams Avenue, and it has all of the products that you all have been talking about. You don't have to go online, and you don't have to use online shipping or any kind of packaging. You can just come down to San Diego in Kensington and check out the sustainable options that we provide. Most of our options are organic. We have shampoos and conditioners, laundry detergent, household cleaners. And the way that we work is that we encourage people to bring their own containers. We hopefully bring in the own single-use plastic containers that you already have. Don't throw those out. Those are perfectly fine to refill. So we are reusing what we've already have. I know that a lot of people want to throw out these plastic containers and get glass containers. I understand that. But again, these containers are perfectly functional. Use those. And then you can refill them up with, like I said, laundry detergent, dish liquid, lotion, face wash, shower gels, you name it, we have it. Toothpaste. We have everything you could possibly need for your household cleaning as well as for your toiletries. And again, that's, I'll type it up in the chat, but it's 4114 Adams Avenue in San Diego. There's also a refill shop in Encinitas, because I believe most of you are probably in North County, called the Nada Shop. I believe that's on the 101. There's also a refill shop in Oceanside called Sonora Refillery. I'm not sure where that address is, but these all provide you alternatives, environmental alternatives to single-use plastic, non-toxic products. We have a new refill shop, or I'm sorry, a new grocery store coming up called the Mighty Bin. That's down here. It's going to be on El Cajon Boulevard. She hopes to open up in October. But we have many options where you don't need to increase your carbon footprint. That means you get to support local providers as opposed to shopping online. We also work with the community because we are a local store. We also support local vendors. We have a lot of local vendors, so we're supporting the local economy here. It's just easier to do business that way. We cut down on shipping. We don't really have to depend on FedEx or UPS or even the post office, because it's all local. And it's always great. I'm so glad that so many people are looking for these alternatives. And I'm glad that the industry, the refill shop is integral to us combating climate change right now. Yeah, that's all I want to let you know. 4114 Adams Avenue, Earthwell Refill. Do you have any questions?
If you have any questions, you can type them in the chat. But I will just want to thank Katrina, because it's so important that, I want to say environmental entrepreneurs like you are taking initiative to provide people with opportunities to shop sustainably and to integrate sustainability into their everyday lives. And I have not been to Earthwell because I am up in Encinitas. I do think this is a pretty mixed crowd. So I think a lot of the people here probably would be closer to Earthwell, but I've been, I shop there, and it's a streamlined process. It's extremely easy. You can just bring in your stuff and refill it and feel good about it. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing for the community, Katrina, and for telling us a little bit about Earthwell tonight and being here for it.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad that you all are looking for it too, or trying to find those local shops that are supporting our combating climate change and getting rid of our single-use plastic dependency.
Awesome. Terrific. Well, we're about closing in here. And so I think we're probably just going to skip the breakouts tonight. And I will go ahead and pass it over to Nicole so she can wrap us up. And then if anyone wants to hang out after and just chat, we can definitely do that.
Thanks so much, Max. And really thank you everyone who has presented thus far. The evening has been very inspiring and informative. And I know that we're all gonna be really happy to take advantage of this new information that you've brought us. So I wanted to make sure I did a shout out before moving forward. So in terms of wrapping up, I'm going to discuss our awesome volunteer of the month. And then I'm going to sort of share some announcements of upcoming events. And we actually have a special volunteer that will be telling us a little bit about an upcoming in-person strike that we're planning. So first and foremost, our volunteer of the month for August is Mel Villoria. And Mel unfortunately cannot be here tonight, but I did want to spotlight them. They're an incredible volunteer. They are an active member of the JEDI team, which stands for Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And they're also the co-leader of our fundraising team. And for those of you who are newer to our organization, or maybe you've seen our campaign in recent weeks, we just finished our Sustaining Donor Drive. And Mel was heavily involved in preparing and implementing that campaign. And I really just want to give a shout out to them and the entire fundraising team, because our initial goal was $4,000 and we ended up, I think, raising over $15,000.
Wow.
So it's really amazing to see people like you come out and support this grassroots movement. So we really are so happy about that. Alrighty, so now I'm going to hop on over to our announcements. We have several events on the calendar, so I'm not going to be able to go through all of them. But if you all enjoyed this evening, our membership meetings happen once every month. So the next one is going to be September 21st, and we're going to be discussing the intersections of labor, unions, striking, as well as incorporating the celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. So if you want to join us for that, it's going to be a really great meeting, and those meetings are always 7 to 8:30 p.m. on the third Tuesday of every month. Other really cool events that I wanted to highlight, on August 18th, we have the Encinitas City Council vote on building electrification. So as we talk about living more sustainably, this is an opportunity, especially for the city of Encinitas, to vote for their green building ordinance. So if you are a resident or just a supporter of these sustainable implementations, please go on the website, register. I believe that's going to be happening via Zoom. Another really great opportunity we have this week is our San Diego 350 Action Hour. And this is sort of a new idea that we implemented a few weeks ago. It's a bi-weekly action hour facilitated by Katie, our wonderful campaign coordinator, and it provides a space for you to do in real time actions oriented around various campaigns that we're doing, and you can meet other volunteers while you're doing this real time work. So check that out. And finally, we are going to be discussing, well, there's a clean air rally at the Peaker plant protest this Saturday. So that's another in-person opportunity, but I just wanted to throw that in there. But finally, we're going to be talking about an upcoming September strike that is being planned by some incredible young folks in San Diego. So I wanted to introduce you to Chris, who is one of the lead organizers, working alongside Rachel and a few other amazing folks. So if you want to spotlight Chris Max, he is going to give us a rundown on that strike and what to expect. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nicole, for giving us a rundown of those events. And thank you so much for all of our presenters. This was awesome. So yeah, we're going to be holding a climate strike in conjunction with like the global youth climate strikes on September 24th. So in about a month. It's going to be around noon, and location is most likely going to be downtown, but tentative considering Delta variant and everything. But it's in conjunction with the global climate strikes, but we're also having some local demands. So of course, trying to get the city to commit to zero carbon a little bit earlier than 2040. In addition, having our local representatives co-sponsor the Thrive Agenda, which is it's a national bill that it's putting a bunch of money towards green jobs, investing in Black and Brown communities, and then finally like averting climate catastrophe at the same time. So yeah, we're also in the process of planning and everything. So we're trying to make it like very much youth-led. So if you know any organizations or people who might want to be involved, especially if they're centered around youth, please do send them my way. Here's my email in the chat. But yeah, we have ongoing meetings. Our next one is tomorrow at 5:30 on Zoom. So if you can send me an email, I will definitely loop you into that meeting. And we're trying to form a wide coalition all across San Diego. But yeah, and we're also trying to have campuses or individual groups have events earlier in the day before the main sort of centralized event around noon downtown. So yeah, thank you so much. I hope to see you all there at the end of September, September 24th.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris, for sharing a little of your wisdom and your experience with us. I think that's going to be a really great event. I think people are craving to get out in the street, but definitely let us know what you decide in terms of the Delta variant. But we're excited to support that work. So really, folks, this is kind of the end of my piece. If you have any questions for me, feel free to DM me in the chat. You can always email me. I'll put that in the chat as well. I know that there are some newer volunteers on the call, so please reach out. I'd love to talk to you about volunteering. And with that, I'll pass it back to Max to see if anyone has questions or if there's anything else we can share with you folks.
Yeah. Thank you, Nicole, and thank you, Chris. Really appreciate that. So yeah, a lot of exciting and important things coming up. Not to mention we have our California gubernatorial, I hope I pronounced that right, recall election, which is on September 14th. And so I'm not going to tell you how to vote, but I would recommend that you understand the implications and understand who the candidates are if Governor Newsom does get recalled, so you know who would be coming into power. It's really important. I don't feel like it's getting a lot of airplay, but definitely something people should be aware about and help spread the word. If you have a strong feeling on it and you've educated yourself, please let other people in your networks know. I will say that we will also, mail ballots, I got mine. We will also send a recap email to anyone who's registered for this. It will include a recording. We'll try to include all the decks. We'll certainly put the same sustainability deck in there. And if Jana and Tina are willing to share their decks, we can do that as well. Information about Earthwell and what Katrina is doing, and all the other information that we've spoke to tonight. So don't feel like you have to remember everything and grab stuff out of the chat. We'll make sure that you have all the resources that we've covered tonight in there. And again, I just want to thank the people who helped organize this, specifically Michaela and Sophia. It's a big undertaking, a lot of logistical planning, gathering presenters, figuring out what the agenda is, covering all of our bases. A huge thanks to all of our presenters for being part of this and putting your time aside to join us and help educate our community. I think we had about 47 people here at peak time, which is pretty good for these meetings. And so we're gonna keep going and pushing that. We have our next one talking about labor. I think, did you talk about that? I don't know, there's so much stuff, but it's coming up in September. And so we do this every month. And hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to start doing this in person again, like the good old days. That'll be really special. And so trying to see if there's doesn't look like there's any major questions here. You can always follow up with me. I'll put my email in here as well. And again, thank you for coming and supporting us, and have a great night and have a great week. And that's it. Look at that, right on time. Well, we just had to skip the breakouts.
Yay! Great work, everyone.
Yeah, amazing job. Put the Bob Marley back on. Outro music.
I like that.
All right. Good job, Sophia, Michaela, Liz. Oh, I forgot to give Liz a shout out. Liz, you definitely deserve a shout out.
Thank you.
I
I feel like I rushed through my thing.
It's okay. Do we want to stop the recording?
Yes.